Only 3 days to go to get your millionaire raffle ticket before they're gone. With 1 millionaire guaranteed, over 5,500 cash prizes, and our best win odds ever, you can win it. Even your granny is learning ukulele can win it.
Oh dear.
Play responsibly in store, in-app, or at lottery.ie.
I'm a millionaire.
Welcome back into the Sportsmemo NFL Every Game on the Board podcast with our closer, Robbie Veno. Rob, welcome to the pod. How are you?
I am good today, Drew. Friday, heading into a monster weekend of college football, NFL. Of course, how about the college hoops are back in full force as well as we roll toward conference season. So busy time for us, but, you know, we love it, so we keep doing it.
Absolutely. It's a great time to be a sports bettor. And I'll tell you what, Robbie, for the podcast, we're going to do a big discount here across all Sportsmemo handicappers. The coupon code AllAccessHalf at checkout. For any all-access package, we'll give it to you for half off. And guys, the prices are already discounted for the all-access pass, which gives you every sport that the handicapper does at this time frame. So that will be a 3-day pass for $69. That's half off. You can do the 7-day, the 30-day, the 90-day, the 1-year all-access pass. So it's as much as, almost $800, $900 off. If you do the 1 year, 90-day would be $350 off. So for just $350, you can get the rest of the 3 months from Robbie Veno or any Sportsmemo handicapper on the page for just half off any all-access pass. That's AllAccessHalf at checkout. Robbie, looking at how you've been doing. You've been doing good, man. Your NBA has been great. The last 8 weeks, 22-10, 69%. Seeing it on the hardwood. NFL been pretty good. College football, the top plays have been really good, 61% year to date. And I saw just, last night you were on that Vanderbilt Baylor over 55. Man, did you hit that at halftime?
We were close.
Okay.
We were close. My son kept saying, hey, you might get this by halftime. But, yeah, they did the right thing. And like we always say, Drew, when you go ahead and take the time and do the work, and then when they play out the way you anticipate on the field, there's nothing better. So the 5%, and dating back to Sportsmemo times, the 20 stars have just been incredibly successful over not just a week or a day. It's an 11-year span for myself since 2006, 2007, where we've hit better than 60% of those 5% plays, as we now call them. So last night, another winner. Look forward to 3 more here in College Bowl season. 3 parts of the College Bowl Grand Slam still left to go, so they will be posted as the games start coming fast and furious.
All right, good stuff, Robbie. And we got 317 to 332 to finish out the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast. And guys, remember, we'll be back on Monday, New Year's Eve day, doing the NFL opening line report with Teddy Covers for Wild Card Weekend, telling you which side to get on. But we'll finish out this card here, and just remember the AllAccessHalf, the coupon code for Rob Veno or any handicapper on sportsmemo.com. Good discount here for the weekend. And that gives you every sport, college basketball, NFL, hockey, whatever they do, for the next 3 days to 90 days to 1 year, whatever you want to choose on sportsmemo.com. Robbie, 317, 318 here. Atlanta, Tampa Bay, NFC South matchup here. We got the Falcons laying 1.5 in Tampa, 52 the total.
Yeah, interesting matchup, Drew, because nothing's at stake, unlike some of the other games here this week. So we can fully anticipate both teams using starters that are available and go from there as a normal handicap. It's about as normal a handicap as you could get this week, the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game is. For Atlanta, it was important to make sure that their running back situation was going to be okay here, and it appears as if Tevin Coleman is going to go in this contest. If Tevin Coleman had not been able to go, you're talking about the top 3 running backs for the Atlanta Falcons out of this game, with, of course, Devontae Freeman out for a long extended period of time on IR back in October. Ito Smith also on IR, and, of course, Coleman, if he had not been able to go because of the groin injury, would have been looking at maybe Matt Ryan just airing it out all game long. And it still may end up that way against Jameis Winston as Tampa Bay tries to conclude the season in good fashion. You have to notice some improvement in Tampa Bay, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Now, last week, I went ahead and took a play in the NFL on under in the Tampa Bay-Dallas game where the total was set at 48 and wound up staying under. 47 was the final, I think 27-20. But for Tampa Bay, Drew, that's 5 consecutive unders. And it all correlates to better defense. The last 5 weeks, Tampa Bay's allowed 9, 17, 28 to the Saints in a game where the Saints only had they struggled for 2.5 quarters and I think put up 3 consecutive touchdowns from late third quarter to early fourth quarter to go ahead and or to mid fourth quarter to go ahead and ice that game. But they had trouble with the Tampa Bay defense, and then Baltimore only put up 20, and again Dallas an underplay 27-20. So we see this number pushing up where total is concerned. I'm looking now at 52s after seeing 50.5 just yesterday. And it could be that, folks are just still considering Tampa Bay overall statistics and going under the generalization that they're a lousy defense. Atlanta's a lousy defense because they haven't been good all season long, and we'll go ahead and play over 2 passing style teams. But things have changed a little bit. Tampa Bay, like I just said, has been better on the defensive side, and Atlanta, for what it's worth, has been better on the defensive side because of the return of some of their players off the disabled list back to that defense. So I don't know that I agree with the line move there, Drew. 52 to me seems maybe a little bit high, although I can't disagree with anybody who would be of the belief that the game's going to be mostly passing, and these two teams do look to go vertical. From that fundamental aspect, you might like over, but I'd just be a little bit leery because of the way these two defenses are now playing.
Robbie, we got 319, 320 up next. AFC East battle here. Miami, Buffalo, another situation where, not a lot to play for, so to speak, but either way, you can cash a ticket and it pays the same. 39.5 the total. Buffalo being bought up here. 3 up to 5.5. Is weather an issue in this one, Robbie?
It'll be cold. And that can be an issue, I guess, Drew, because we're talking about a team from southern Florida coming up into the cold, end of the season, nothing to play for, got their heads handed to them by Jacksonville, at least from an offensive standpoint last week, where Miami's offense was totally shut down by the Jaguars. So for the Miami Dolphins, as we look through these games, week 16, and look to see maybe who's motivated, who's not, I think this one might have one of the biggest disparities of all the games where that angle is concerned. I have to feel that the Buffalo Bills at home in their final home game, using this one as a springboard for the offseason and next season, they'll come to play. Miami Dolphins, I'm not so sure. A lot of trouble with that team, whether it be on the field or exterior issues with the Tannehill injury in the middle of the season, and a couple of those press conferences where it looked like Adam Gase was fed up with Tannehill. At least that's what he portrayed. There's been some issues there, so I don't know about Miami coming to Buffalo, New York in what should be about 30 to 32 degree temperatures and really trying to perform at their best. I think that when the kickoff happens, Drew, it starts out that way, but should Buffalo get out 7-0, 10-0, 14-0 with their defense, I wonder if Miami doesn't just, look ahead to the golf clubs and get out of there. I think the push toward Buffalo is the correct way to go. It's certainly more than what the line should be. Power ratings indicate that the opener was the right number here. Buffalo should have opened here or should be about a 3-point favorite. But when you add in all these exterior Week 16 circumstances, I think you can get to Buffalo -5, 5.5 in that game.
Robbie, I believe this is the marquee matchup of the weekend in the NFL. 3-2-1, 3-2-2. Indianapolis at Tennessee. Looks like Indy laying 3 plus some juice. Also some 3.5s out there. So depending on how you like to bet it, 3 with some juice, 3.5. You can shop around for this one. 43.5 the total, Robbie. Is this the winner's in, the loser goes home, right?
That's the way that one works. Yeah, it's for the AFC divisional title. And you have Indianapolis on the road, laying the 3 points here to Tennessee, which has suddenly taken on a identity which I think they, have had for the better part of the last 3 or 4 years, but it's got somewhat away from them because they didn't have a runner running the way Derrick Henry has run the last 3 weeks, all of a sudden he's become an absolute force and, statistically one of your best half dozen backs in the league over the course of the last 3 weeks. So for Indianapolis, the focus obviously is going to be on stopping Henry. You have the injury situation with Marcus Mariota. He's now going to go. Certainly not 100%. Jarrell Casey, their best defensive tackle, put on IR this week. That hurts Tennessee. How about Corey Davis, their number one wide receiver, hitting the injury list just last night, and now he's got a question mark next to his name with a hamstring problem. Tennessee's a banged-up football team, and what they'd love to do in this contest, obviously, from a fundamental standpoint, is run the football successfully, keep possessions limited, try to keep Andrew Luck off the field, and that formula has been working with Derrick Henry over the last, like I say, 3 weeks. But in this game, I'm not so sure, because if there's one strength to an improved Indianapolis defense, it's been the run defense. You really have to throw at this point in time, or have the capability to throw the football in order to get the better of the Indianapolis defense. When you're a run-oriented team the way Tennessee is right now, Indy's run D, which only allows 102 yards per game, can stack the box loaded up and, look to gang tackle Derrick Henry. I think from the fundamental perspective of this game, Indianapolis looks good. Situationally, motivationally, I'd give this whole thing a toss-up, but injury-wise, it looks like Indianapolis has a small advantage. I will say this. If Tennessee was capable of throwing the football consistently and successfully, Drew, they'd have a real chance here, because the Colts secondary, there's like 4 or 5 guys in that secondary that have questionable tags next to their name. They're very banged up. Whether these guys play or not, they won't be playing at 100%. That secondary is an injured bunch. I just don't know that Tennessee can take advantage of that. So perhaps the reason why Indianapolis climbed from 2.5 to 3, and now we see the VIG pushing to minus 20 cents, minus 25 cents, and we'll see if the odds makers are forced to come off of that 3. We know they don't want to, but if a flood of Indy money comes in, they might have to.
Robbie, we got Cincinnati, Pittsburgh up next, 45.5 the total, with the Steelers laying 14 or 14 in the hook, depending where you shop.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, Drew, that in my mind, I would almost, if I had to put a label on this game, I'd almost label it an angry game. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are so angry at the situation they're placed in Week 16, with their playoff hopes really hinging on a thread. They have to win. They need help. They've lost so many close games. They put themselves in this position. I just think they come out from start to finish and absolutely need to destroy somebody. I think that'll be the mindset of this team. Cincinnati's probably the perfect opponent for that, because to add to what have already been considerable injury woes, you now add Tyler Boyd, their next best receiver behind A.J. Green. When A.J. Green went down, Tyler Boyd stepped up. Tyler Boyd now placed on IR, out of this game with a knee injury. Puts it all on a bunch of young wide receivers with a young quarterback in Jeff Driscoll. They just don't have enough offensive parts at this point in time to play with Pittsburgh, who could be without Antonio Brown, according to some reports that surfaced yesterday and into today. Right now, Antonio Brown is wearing a questionable tag next to his name. Pittsburgh does have enough wide receiving depth to still score points if Brown can't go. But reading in between the lines here, Drew, I think he's probably going to give it a shot and go, even if it's just as a decoy. I think Pittsburgh certainly far too many offensive weapons against a Cincinnati defense that's now without Vontaze Burfict. He's out of this game. For Cincinnati, the end of the season can't come quick enough. This is a large number, 14.5. But the way I see this game, I think Pittsburgh can probably score in between 34 and 38 points, and I think that's going to be enough to cover 14.5.
Robbie, next game up, we got Chicago versus Minnesota, NFC North matchup, 40.5 the total. Looks like the Vikings laying 4.5 in Minneapolis.
Yeah, boy, so much going on here, Drew, in this game. It not only affects both of these teams' status, but it affects other teams' status. What the result of this is, mainly the Philadelphia Eagles, who will be watching this game, scoreboard watching closely. It's really good how the NFL reschedules times of games so that nobody in a playoff position can see a early result of a team that they're in competition with for certain playoff spots. So for the Eagles, they'll be going in the same time slot as the Chicago-Minnesota game is going at. Eagles will be Bear fans here. Bears head coach Matt Nagy said they will come to play this game. There's no doubt they want to win it. There have been multiple theories thrown around this week about how this game might play out. But I think you just handicap this game from a straightforward perspective. Chicago's going to play their starters. Minnesota obviously playing their starters. They need the game. Chicago could, in theory, get themselves to the number 2 seed in the NFC, which would mean a bye week for them. So there's a lot to play for there. Both really good defenses, Drew. Obviously, the total at 40.5 indicates that. I think for Minnesota, the biggest problem for them is going to be, can they run the football against the Bears defense, which is only allowing 81 rushing yards per game. Minnesota's had some success the last couple of weeks since they fired their offensive coordinator. And, that was under the premise of we have to run the football more, not necessarily be 70-30 run heavy, but we have to run it more. Minnesota's been successful doing so. They've put up more points the last couple of weeks. Can they do that against the Bears, though? I certainly have my doubts that they'll be able to run. It's going to be on the right arm, throwing arm of Kirk Cousins in this game. And Minnesota's defense causes the same problems for the Chicago Bears and Mitchell Trubisky here. So good game. I'd probably look at the Chicago side plus all these points. Even if they lose, I don't think that this is any more than a field goal game one way or another. So for me, it would probably be the Bears or pass.
3 games left, guys, and the coupon code AllAccessHalf at checkout. That's AllAccessHalf. All Access Half at checkout, sportsmemo.com, when you're checking out for any All Access package for half off. Robbie Veno's a great choice. College basketball, NBA, both good. NFL, college football. Get every sport the handicapper does for half off. Big savings there at sportsmemo.com with the coupon code AllAccessHalf. Robbie, we got the AFC West battle here. LA Chargers, Denver Broncos. Looks like the Chargers laying 6 or 6.5, depending where you shop. On the road, 42 the total.
Yeah, in years past, Drew, almost any year past, I would say that for the Broncos, even as a team that's not going to the playoffs, I'd expect them to be up to play spoiler against the LA Chargers. Certainly a divisional rival. Certainly they can affect where the Chargers sit in the playoffs. Chargers already have a playoff berth locked up, but they could move anywhere from 5 to 1 in that AFC. So a lot to play for LA. But like I say, because of the rivalry, most times I would say Denver's going to put up a fight, and at home +6 could be worth a look. Problem for me is looking at Denver this year, there's so many exterior issues going on here. Number 1, will Vance Joseph be fired? Number 2, is Case Keenum going to be our quarterback? All these off fields, almost as if Denver's looking toward the draft and free agency far more than they are looking at games anymore. That performance against the Oakland Raiders Monday night was hideous, to say the least. They get beaten by the Raiders 27-14 in that game. Neither side of the ball looked good in that one. Denver's been relying on defense for the last few weeks. But when you're without your top offensive weapon in Emmanuel Sanders as far as receivers go, and now you're without your top running back, Phillip Lindsay, who's out of this game, I see no way to play the Denver Broncos here. The only way that could be considered would be if the Chargers look up at the scoreboard at halftime and see that Kansas City is absolutely destroying Oakland, and they figure, okay, we're destined for the number 5 spot. We'll pull some starters, and we'll just play out the second half and not get any injuries. If that happens, maybe Denver's good for a cover, but I'm not going to bank on it. I think LA's angry off of the way last week happened against the Baltimore Ravens. Their offense was completely shut down. Phillip Rivers and company. Certainly when you're led by Phillip Rivers, too much pride there. And I just think these two teams are in very, very different places right now. So I'd be more than willing to lay 6 with the LA Chargers here. 6 might be the over-under for how many times I've said San Diego one more week in referring to the Chargers, but I think LA is the right way to go here.
I catch myself all the time almost saying it, man. It's just because the LA, how long have they been there, Robbie? It still doesn't resonate in my head.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, it's only been one season concluding right now that they've been there, and it just doesn't seem to fit them, right? To say L.A. Chargers almost doesn't roll off the tongue the right way.
It really doesn't. It does that. This one in particular, I know when other teams move, it gets a little dicey, but this one in particular, the words just don't mix well. But we'll have to leave it at that. 329-330, Arizona, Seattle, 38.5 the total. 12.5 or 13 what Seattle's laying at home. And Robbie, we were talking to Teddy in the first half, and he kind of highlighted Arizona as being a team to look to fade in Week 17. Motivation being an issue there for Arizona. Do you agree with him? How would you look to bet Arizona, Seattle?
It's difficult to make a case for them, Drew, because they just don't show up lately. Here's another team. You know, Steve Wilkes got the head coaching job just this year. Carolina Panthers assistant, gets his first crack at head coach. We're 15 games into a season, heading into the final one. And, I mean, the rumors about him being fired are rampant. The guy hasn't even had a chance to establish what he might want to do. And they're talking about, or there's a lot of published reports considering he might be fired after this game. So for Arizona, maybe the team personnel-wise would want to play one for this coach if they like him. I can't really get a read on whether or not Arizona even has that type of motivation inside them. That's not something I would depend on here. I think the bigger issue is going to be the Seahawks. It seems to me that at this point in time, Seattle's very non-committal as to whether or not they really want that number 5 seed, which would bring them an easier matchup in the wild card round, or if they're willing to rest Russell Wilson for a portion of this game, if they're willing to give Doug Baldwin rest, if they're willing to give Tyler Lockett, KJ Wright, all these guys some rest, and perhaps, you know, lose and take the number 6 seed. They're non-committal as to which way they're going to go here. It's hard for me to get a real read. So I would lean on, you know, past history and the head coach here, which in Pete Carroll's case, my read on him and obviously his tenure proves it. He's a guy who wants to win football games. So that's the way I'm going to approach it. Seattle wants to win this football game. They're the far better team. Chris Carson has been so good running the football for them. And I think I had said to you on the podcast maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago that whenever Doug Baldwin is in the lineup, I'm usually playing over because Seattle's offense with him on the field, either as decoy because he's had so many injuries this year or as a healthy threat, they just become that much better. He's going to be on the field here. We'll see for how long, but I think Seattle should be able to score enough points. They may play this one till halftime, and if they're sitting on, let's just say, a 21-3 lead or something like that at halftime, at that point, Pete Carroll may give the starters one more series, and then there's the potential for him to pull everybody. But can Arizona backdoor this team? I'm not sure. It's very hard to get back to what you said about Teddy's view on this game. It's very hard to disagree with that. I just wouldn't want to be somebody running up and putting money on Arizona. Last week, they just showed up at the stadium and really didn't play at all. The Rams crushed them 31-6. So I don't know that that's going to change here.
Robbie, we got one game left, so that means we got one game left for the NFL Every Game on the Board podcast for the regular season. It's been fun, man. Happy to have you on and break this last one down, so we'll make it count. 48.5 the total as San Francisco visits LA, this time to play the Rams, with the Rams laying 9.5 or 10.
Yeah, now this one, I kind of have an eye on the underdog in this game, the 49ers plus the points, and we've seen that number chop down a little bit, 10.5 down to 10. I believe I saw a 9.5 somewhere, a rogue 9.5, maybe at Chris or somewhere earlier this afternoon. I'll go back and look, but figuring that the universal number is 10 here, Might have to look at San Francisco. They get destroyed by LA the first time around. Certainly LA has everything to play for. They are the team battling the Chicago Bears for that number 2 seed in the NFC playoff race and a bye week, which goes with that. So there's a lot to play for with the Rams. But San Francisco, go back to the Denver game where they won, and they've put up a real good 4-week stretch here despite all the injuries that they've had. They've had to overcome a lot. They have overcome a lot. And I was really surprised, Drew, when I went through their defensive numbers. And for lack of spending a lot of time digging deep into their numbers, we'll just go with the overview. The season-long numbers posted on the defensive side of these two teams. And, San Francisco, for all the money they spent in the offseason, and the LA Rams, for all the money they spent during the offseason, and then again made a move to acquire Dante Fowler Jr. before the trade deadline. So they put a lot into their defense here with Marcus Peters, with Aqib Talib, with Ndamukong Suh, and then, of course, with Dante Fowler Jr. But do you know that the 49ers are the team that's allowed 12 less total yards per game? Only 344.5 for the 49ers, 356.5 for the Rams. Caught me a little bit by surprise because you don't think that the 49ers have been a great defensive team this season, but they really have been a good total yardage team. Points against them have come in some weird ways this year, but they've played pretty good defense lately. I think they'll play some pretty good defense here again. The Rams aerial circus hasn't been the same since Cooper Kupp went down, and it really hasn't been the same with Todd Gurley hobbled a little bit to create the balance that they need. I think 10 points is a lot here. I'd probably look, and this is a divisional game where, in my estimation, San Francisco is going to come to play. San Francisco is going to be all keyed up to be a spoiler in this one. I think it's a lot. I think the number's big. I think that, you get the McVay versus Shanahan Part 2 deal, and maybe Kyle Shanahan can do enough offensively to keep his team close. So for me, probably the dog plus 10 points.
All right, Robbie, great breakdown, guys. Coupon code AllAccessHalf at checkout for any All Access package for half off this weekend, and you can go all the way 90-day, up to 1 year for half off at sportsmemo.com with Robbie Veno or any handicapper on the slate. Robbie, what do you got on tap for this weekend?
Wow, we will have a lot on tap. Starting with tonight, Drew, plays are up for college bowl game action. Later on this evening, we'll have tomorrow's bowl games up. We'll have the NFL for the weekend up. Then we'll look to Saturday college basketball to see what we can find there. So it's going to be very, very busy. Plays go up fast and furious. So again, for everybody out there listening, just continue to check the Sports Memo homepage to see when new stuff pops up. I know myself, Drew, a lot of us, you're working around the clock here so that plays go up at various times. So certainly keep checking back in. And real quick before I stop, I just want to thank, we've got a few really devoted followers on Twitter, Drew, who have sang our praises for both of these podcasts that we've done all season long, the college football, every game on the board, and of course, like you said earlier, the NFL, every game on the board. And just want to thank those who get to Twitter and thank us for what we do. We thank you guys for listening, and hopefully as we transition into basketball, all the listeners stick with us and find that just as informative as they found the football podcast.
Yeah, that's well said, Robbie, because sometimes it gets difficult, going through every game and knowing that people are listening and liking it and commenting on Twitter. I know I really appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Drew Martin Betts, Robbie on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports, and try to respond to everybody. I know, Robbie, you do as well, and you're right, Robbie. It just kind of I just love to interact with everybody out there on Twitter, right?
No, absolutely, Drew, and maybe in the future, I think maybe we'll try to do our best to accommodate a couple more questions like we did intermittently this year. We got a couple of guys wanted to know about certain games, but the fact that we cover every game to begin with, I can see from the responses is appreciated by people, and we love doing it. We're looking at every conference as better, so why not tell you guys what we see? So continue praising us on Twitter. That's the bottom line to the whole thing. We love to hear it.
Yeah, Robbie. Well, hey, man, best of luck with your bets this weekend. Best of luck with everybody's bets out there. Hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast. We will be back on Monday with the NFL opening line report for Wild Card Weekend. And, we'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great, safe weekend.
Only 3 days to go to get your millionaire raffle ticket before they're gone. With 1 millionaire guaranteed, over 5,500 cash prizes, and our best win odds ever, you can win it. Even your granny is learning ukulele can win it.
Oh dear.
Play responsibly in store, in-app, or at lottery.ie.
I'm a millionaire.
Only 3 days to go to get your millionaire raffle ticket before they're gone. With 1 millionaire guaranteed, over 5,500 cash prizes, and our best win odds ever, you can win it. Even your granny is learning ukulele can win it.
Oh dear.
Play responsibly in store, in-app, or at lottery.ie.
I'm a millionaire.